Hello and welcome to the demonstration video on the 2006 Elddis Sunseeker 100. I'm going to demonstrate everything on the outside first and then we'll make our way onto the inside. So as we're walking our way around the vehicle, to open the cab release on this, it's just underneath the driver's steering wheel and it's that tab there to open the bonnet. So underneath the bonnet we've got battery, brake fluid, power steering fluid, oil fill, you've got your dipstick just down there with the green cap on it, coolant and washer fill. So that's under the bonnet dealt with. The fuel filler cap on this is just here. You just push that side in to release the cap for the fuel. You'll need your key in there to fill it full of fuel, so that's the diesel fuel goes into there. Making our way towards the back then, these lockers on the side here. First one is your gas locker, so your two gas bottles would go into here. It does require a flexible pigtail for the gas hose that goes onto there. So it's an inline regulator, so the pressure regulator is already fixed, so you don't need a regulator that would normally go on top of your bottles. There's just a flexible hose that comes off of that, goes onto the gas bottles and then screws into the gas bottles, and the gas bottle has got a tap on top of it, and that's how you switch on the gas supply to the vehicle. There is a tap there, but if you just leave that switched on and then use the tap that's on top of the bottles to switch on and off the gas supply to the vehicle. The next one along is your battery box. So your battery, this is your leisure battery, so your leisure battery sits in there. To plug into the main supply, this is where the main supply comes in, and the cable has got a little slot there, so you can have this door closed. So you can see that little slot there. The cable sits into there, plugs in, so you've got a main supply into the van, and then you can close this with the that little notch there, allows the cable to sit in, and you can lock this locker up. Just by the door here we've got the vents for the fridge. These just need to be kept free of debris. This hasn't been washed or valeted yet, so there is a bit of debris in there, but we'll clean that out. So it draws cool air in at the bottom, expels warm air at the top, so just be careful if, for example, the door is like that and the fridge is on. Just be aware that the fridge needs to vent correctly, so best just leaving that door slightly ajar if you can while the fridge is on. This one's been fitted with a security device and handle, so if you pull this down here, it allows you then to swing this arm around. So you can swing the arm around to there, so you've just got that to hang, pull yourself in. So a handle like that. When the habitation door is closed, you can swing this across, and it's a security device so that the door can't be jimmied open, and it's got a lock there to keep it secure. Just next to the door and the step here is where you empty the wastewater. So there's an indication inside on the control panel, which I'll show you, to tell you when the wastewater's full, and it's just a tap on the end of this pipe here that's undone, and then that allows the wastewater to escape. You just park over a grid and let that water escape. That's the grey water that goes down the sink and down the shower, so that ends up in a tank underneath the vehicle, and that requires emptying via that tap there. The step is a manual step, so you just basically lift it up and push it back in, and to get it out it's just a manual pull on the step itself. So to the back of the vehicle then, this has got a bike rack fitted. The way this works is undo those catches there, one on either side. So then that section drops down like that. The bikes sit on these rails, they go over the wheel of the bike. They're just straps like a tie wrap strap. You just push that button in there and that releases this strap, so they go over the wheels of the bike. and then the crossbars are secured via these arms here. So the outer bike would be on the outer longer rail, and then the inner bike that secures the crossbar for the inner bike. This arm here can be adjusted so that you can get the right height for the crossbar. You just unscrew those threaded nuts there, and you can see that that's a ratchet system, so you can adjust this bar to the correct height so that you can get this securing device, this arm, onto the crossbar of the bike. We've also got a ladder and a rack on the top of this vehicle. You're just undoing that ratchet strap, and then the ladder's hinged here. That padded section there sits on the bumper of the van when that is hinged down, so that releases the ladder. Underneath that we've got the toilet compartment that requires emptying, and there's an indication inside on the toilet which I'll show you to tell you when the toilet compartment is full. To empty that, you press that little lever in down there, and that allows you to then slide the toilet cassette out. Once you've got the toilet cassette out, to empty this, what you do, take that funnel, direct it to where you want to, the drain point on the sides where you can get rid of the toilet waste. Unscrew the nozzle on the end, and then pick up the full cassette and pour the waste away out of the nozzle on the end. As you're doing so, press this button here. It lets air in as the liquid is being dispersed from the funnel end, so that it stops it glugging, so it's just a pure, you get a smooth flow of liquid coming out of the cassette. This requires the toilet chemical to be put into it. So the way that you do that is you slide this back here, undo this, so you're turning this around here, and it opens up a blade inside there, and then you pour the blue chemical into this, and then a little bit of water in the bottom, and what the blue chemical does is it breaks down all the solids, gets rid of all the smells, in order that you can pour everything out through the nozzle there. So you've got to make sure that that's then closed in that position like that, so that it's pointing forwards, in order to get this cassette back into the carrier. This toilet system has a separate flush tank, so it doesn't come off the fresh water, so that requires filling. To do that, you open up that hinged nozzle there, unscrew the cap on the end, and pour the water into there. You can also put the pink flush chemical into that, and it stops the flush tank. So what it's got is a flush tank just for the toilet. Okay, so the pink chemical goes into there, and it stops any algae building up in that tank. Really what you want to do is empty the tank every time you're not using it, but if you put the pink chemical into here, the recommended amount of pink chemical, it'll prevent algae building up in the tank. That requires draining in winter. If it's not drained down and it's left to freeze, water's left to freeze in here, it'll expand and it'll damage the tank. So to do that, you open up that nozzle there, and it'll let the excess out of this funnel here. You also need to take out this tube here. I'll give you an indication of how much is in the flush tank. You can just about see it there, the level's up to there. So to drain the whole tank down, you pull that nozzle off there, and this tube here then, it's a siphoning effect, so that it siphons all the water out of the flush tank, and you just leave that dangling until there's no more water pouring out of it. To put that back in, you put the end into that nozzle there and clip that back into its position there. Working our way around the other side of the van, this is a exhaust for the boiler system. So if you're running the boiler, which deals with the hot water on gas, it needs to vent that gas fumes. So this is a weather cover for that chimney. So what you do to take this off is you push in there with your thumb, peel back here with your fingers, and then that allows you to take that cover off. So there we can see the cover off, and that's how the chimney must look in order for it to vent properly. So when you're using gas to heat your water, that's where the gas exhaust fumes from. So in cold weather you'll see steam coming out of this and gas fumes. It's nothing to worry about. It's perfectly normal to see that. But in order to get it operational, it must look like that. Otherwise, gas exhaust is coming out, hitting that cover, and it'll prevent the boiler from lighting. You'll get a fault code come up, which I'll show you in a second when we go to the boiler controls. As we work our way towards the front, there's another little tap under here. That's the fresh water drain. So when you've filled up the vehicle, when you filled up the leisure tank, you know, the water tank of water, when you need to drain that down, and you do need to do that in winter or whenever you're not using it to prevent stagnant water in the tank and frost damage, it's got to be drained down in winter. Otherwise, water in the tank will expand and it can damage the tank. Again, it's just a tap on the end of a pipe. And so you can see that's in the open position. So to retain the water in the tank, that has to be turned around on the end of that pipe, and that will let the water stay in the tank. So the water tank itself is filled via this here. So again, you need a key for that. You just put a hose pipe into there until it pours out, and then you know that the water tank, which I'll show you inside, you know that that's full. This next to it here is just a 12-volt socket. If you had a container of water on the floor, you could, in theory, put a submersible pump into that tank on the floor and then pump it into here. But you might as well just fill it with a hose pipe, and then you're filling the tank that's inside the vehicle directly behind this fill cap here, and then the pump will pump it through, and you've got water in your vehicle coming out your taps. This model is fitted with an awning, so the awning here uses this winder, and you literally just put the hooked end of the winder into that slot there, and then you use this here to wind out the awning. Okay, so I've wound the awning out slightly. It is a windy day today, so I'm not going to wind it out all the way, but if you get it to that, if you wind it out about that far, and the legs for the awning are then in the front box here, and if you can see, if you just pull those legs down slightly, it comes out like that, and then these legs are the support legs which sit on the floor, and then you can wind the awning out to its full extent. Okay, so now that we're in the vehicle, when you first put the gas bottles on in the gas locker that I showed you, you've got air in the pipe, so you've got air coming, that's in the pipe between the gas bottle and any gas appliance. So what you need to do then is push that air out with the gas. So you switch the gas bottle on, then the best way to do it is to switch on your hob. So let your hob, it might take a while to ignite, but then at least you know that the gas has pushed all the air out of the pipe work, and then you've got your gas hob lit, so that you know that all the air has been purged out of the pipes for the gas system. So just switch your hob on, and with the igniter you might need to wait for that to ignite for a couple of seconds, but then you know that there's gas readily available in the van. So through to the toilet system, which is next to the kitchen. So this cassette, the cassette that I showed you, mounts in underneath this toilet here. So what happens is that cassette, that blade that I showed you is there, that's on the cassette, and this here opens and closes that blade that is directly connected to that cassette. So the way to use the toilet is open up the blade, use the toilet, and then you need to flush the toilet, which is done via this handle here. So you're turning this around like that, and you can see that the flush tank is that nozzle there, so that flushes it. So that's the flush tank that I told you about. That requires emptying, and then close up the valve and then it's ready to use again. Make sure that that valve's closed as you travel in, because you don't want liquid that could be in the toilet cassette sloshing around in the bowl. There's an indicator, so that's the toilet seat. There's an indicator there just to tell you that the tank's full. So you can see there it's in the red. The cassette needs empty, and as I say, this vehicle's not been valeted yet, so that'll be empty before the customer collects. If it's in the green, this here, then you know that the toilet cassette is empty, so it's halfway between, it's half empty. The shower head that's on the opposite side to the toilet there is just operated by a single lever mixer tap. Now the same again applies to your water system as with your gas. When you first fill up with water, you'll need to purge the air out of the water pipes. So you need to, probably not on the shower, but if you switch on your sink tap, wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of the tap, then you know that you've pushed all the air out of the water pipes and you're getting a pure flow of water coming out of your tap. You need to do that on the hot side and also on the cold side, then you know that your water system is prepped and ready for use. Okay, so the wardrobe, which is next to the washroom here at the back, in here you've got first thing you've got is a freestanding table which clips onto the dinette area with a leg that folds down, so that goes into the dinette area. So that table clips onto this rail here, and then the leg which folds down just sits on the floor there, and that creates your table for the middle of this dinette here. So that's the table here. You've got a mains circuit breaker, so for the mains circuitry, it's just like a domestic circuit breaker that you would have at home. So if any of the mains circuits trip, they will then be in the down position like that. You can see they're off, so they all need to be pointing up, and you can actually push to test. So that's the main circuit breaker there. They're individual for the sockets that are in the vehicle. Underneath here in the base of the wardrobe we have the boiler. So that's the hot water storage tank. So when I said that you need to switch your hot water tap on, what you're basically doing is pumping water from the freshwater tank, filling up this storage tank, and then you'll get a pure flow of water coming through your tap. It's important that this is drained down for winter use. If water's left in there and it freezes, it can expand and crack this hot water storage tank. So there's a little valve that's just there, a yellow lever. So it's pointing up now, that's open. You push it down like that so it's horizontal. That's closed. So the closed position is the usable position. That will retain all the water in this hot water storage boiler. So for winter use, that valve must be in that open position, so it drains all the water out of the fresh water out of the hot water storage boiler. Underneath that is the heater, so the gas heater. To operate this, the dial on the top here, turn that round to 10, push that in, and at the same time spark your igniter. Now you might need to do that 2 or 3 times. As I said, the gas that comes through from the gas bottle takes a while to reach the gas appliances, but if you purge it through with the hob first, it'll take a lot less time. There is a little window that you can look through there that'll show you whether it's lit, so the pilot light, there's a pilot light that lights in there. So what you need to do is light this like you would on any domestic appliance. Basically, keep that pressed in, keep clicking this until the pilot light lights in there. Wait 10 seconds after the pilot light is lit, and then you can slowly release this so that the thermocouple warms up. If you don't hear it ignite once you've slowly released this, the chances are the fire's not ignited. So you need to press this in, ignite it first, get your pilot light lit, wait 10 seconds and slowly release that, and you'll hear the gas fire whoosh, and then you know that the fire has ignited completely. And then you control the temperature that you want via this dial here. So moving on from where where I've just shown you the heater there, are the controls for the boiler. So the water boiler, so the water heater controls are just down here on the edge of the dinette. If you want to heat your water on electric, you just flick that switch. A little light will come on there to tell you that it's heating your water on electric. If you want to heat it on gas, then it's this dial here. So what you do is, that's in the off position. You turn that little tab round to the picture of the flame, and then you control your temperature that you want the water to be via this inner dial here. So what I would do is just leave it on full, and then you can mix it with cold water, so you've got a lot of warm water. Just going back to this here, what will happen is when you switch this on, you'll get a green light there to show you that the boiler has ignited. You can hear it trying to ignite. Probably not on the video, the camera won't pick it up, but you can see a red light has appeared there. That's because there's no gas connected, so it's failed. That won't ignite now if that red light appears. So what you need to do, switch it off, wait a couple of seconds and switch it back on. Now this is going to go to fail again because we've no gas connected. But when you first put your gas on, again, you've got to purge the air out of the pipes that lead to this boiler in order for this to light. So you might have to go through that process 2 or 3 times until it's drawn the gas through, and that allows then for it to ignite. So you know that it's ignited when the red light doesn't appear, which it will again because we've no gas connected. But if the green light stays on and the red light doesn't appear after 15 seconds, then you know that the boiler's ignited on gas. Across from the dinette and underneath the sink, we've got a fridge. It's a 3-way fridge. It'll use 3 different power sources. So if you're traveling and you want to keep the fridge cool on from the engine alternator, it's that button there. Now that won't ignite because the engine isn't running. If I was to switch the engine on now, that'll ignite to tell you that the fridge is running from the 12 volts, so it's running on the engine alternator. It's not very efficient on that. You probably want to get it cold first, either on gas or electric, and then just have that ticking over as you're traveling. This is the electric, so that's mains electric. Again, it's efficient on that. Get it cold if you're on site, you're plugged in, then that's the one to use. That's your temperature control for your electric. So if it's really hot outside, you want the fridge to work harder, then you're turning it round to its maximum setting of 7. If it's really cold outside and really cold weather, you don't want the fridge to be overworking because it'll freeze up. So this dial here, you should be setting at a setting that is in accordance with the ambient temperature outside. This is if you want to run it on gas. So again, it needs igniting. So what you do is, similar to the fire, turn it round to the picture of the flame, press this button in for your igniter, and you need to just keep that pressed in while you're clicking the igniter. And there's a little inspection hatch there for the pilot light. Very difficult to see, but if you line up properly, you can see a little pilot light through that little window there, and then you know that the gas has ignited for the fridge. Again, this is a temperature control, so you're using that in accordance with the temperature that's outside. So again, to light this, you want it round to the picture of the big flame, ignite this until the pilot light ignites inside that I showed you. Keep that pressed in for 10 seconds or so, and then slowly release it. Make sure that the pilot light in that hatch there stays lit, and then you know that your fridge is operational on gas. To open the fridge up and keep the fridge door locked when you're in transit, you push that button down there, and to release it, you push up on that green catch there. There's 2 settings on here. If you're leaving the fridge for any length of time, you don't want stagnant air sitting in the fridge, then that little peg that you're pushing down there, you need to put it onto the inner receiver there, and it keeps the door slightly ajar so that you've got air flowing around this seal here and you don't get stagnant air sitting in the fridge. So in the dinette area here, this is the main control panel. So this button here, you've got the option of auxiliary battery. There's a rocker switch here, so you've got auxiliary battery. In the middle it's off, or you can select the vehicle battery. If you select the vehicle battery and discharge it, you won't be able to start the engine, so keep it on auxiliary. The auxiliary battery will charge via a 12 volt charger, which I'll show you in a second, and keep that battery topped up. When you're in auxiliary position, this is an indicator to tell you what level the battery's at. So you can probably see there it's at 12 volts. I'll slide it over to the engine, the vehicle battery, it's just slightly less, but leisure batteries are designed to be discharged and fully charged and fully discharged. So just use the auxiliary position, and unless it's an emergency, then you can use the vehicle one. You press this here, that tells you what the water level is on your freshwater tank. So you can see it's indicating the voltage now. If I click it over to water, it's showing 0, so there's no water in the tank. In order to get water from that freshwater tank and through your taps, you need the pump. So that's your water pump. Don't let that run if there's no water in it. So what I was saying about purging the system through, that's fine when you first connect to the water, but if you've run out of water and that's left on, the water that's running through the pump cools it. So if that's left running at full speed, it'll actually burn the pump out. The way that pump works is, so it's not running now, but there's a micro switch inside these taps. So as soon as I open this tap, you might be able to hear that. That makes the pump run. So it's not running now, but if I open up the tap, you can see the pump started to run. Underneath this bench seat here is where the charger unit is housed. And it's just under here, so just under there you'll be able to see, maybe if I put the phone down here, you've got your charger unit which is this here, and then next to that you've got a bank of 12 volt fuses. So those fuses housed just underneath there. There for the 12 volt appliances, so you'll have a fuse in there for the pump, for the lights, etc, etc. So that's, if you get a fault with a 12 volt appliance, that's where you should look for the for those 12 volt fuses. To make the bed up in this area here, what you do is you pull out this section here. You can probably see it sits on a little lug there, so those slotted slats like that bridge the gap between these two. And then you're using these cushions to fill those bits in. And then there's a secondary cushion which bridges that gap. I'll make the full bed up now and then you can see what I mean. These side pieces here, they pull out. So that side piece there, they pull out. It's got a little strap there stopping it, that's why I couldn't get it out. But so that makes a little extension to the bed, and that's the same on that side. So I'll make the bed up and show you how that works. So there we've got the full bed made up. When you pull these side pieces out, there's a little board that goes in between the two to bridge the gap, and then the backing cushion off that side wall there sits in the middle to bridge the gap. So that's your bed made up, and there is a small walkway that you can get through if you've got people sleeping up there to get through to the bathroom. So that's the bed dismantled, put back to a dinette. Up here you've got, on the bed here, you've got the ladder which clips onto, clips onto this here. If you pull these little levers back, sits onto there, push those forward, it retains it in position, and that's where your ladder sits to gain access up into the bunk. You could just stand on that, but it gives you a bit more leverage to get up in there. The cushions are there for the bed which I've just shown you, and that's the board there for the to bridge the gap between the two dinettes, and you've got your carpets up there. So you can push this forward. You take that, the mattress is in two pieces. So you take that back mattress off the back, put it on top of this one. This section here will slide forward to come and meet this here, so you've got more room in your cab area. And you see that section's cut out. So that completes the handover video. Hope that's helpful. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer those on the day that you collect. Hope that answers all your questions and you found it helpful. I look forward to seeing you on the day that you collect.